Well, joining me now in studio is Oklahoma Secretary of Education and Workforce Development, Dr. Robert Sommers. Well, when you were appointed Secretary of Education and Workforce Development, just that name change, I think, maybe means something in a new approach for today's students.
Yes, it's very clear that in Oklahoma we've figured out that education has many purposes, but one that's critical is to allow young people to become productive, economically productive adults. We have to be able to prepare our young people to have choices in the workplace, either as an employee or as a business owner. And so whatever we do in education has to consider the impact on preparation and ability to compete in the world.
Now, we just saw Andy's segment on Common Core. Let's talk a little bit about some of the concerns that some of the people raise. And
Sure.
Number one, just the one size doesn't always fit all. What about that concern?
Yeah, actually, a lot of people don't understand that the Common Core is a foundation, it's not the house. So a young person, remember, Common Core is math and English. So it doesn't cover science, it doesn't cover social studies, it doesn't cover career tech, it doesn't cover foreign languages, the arts, music. There's a whole plethora of educational experiences that young people will get from schools that are beyond Common Core. In fact, Common Core doesn't even require you to stop with Common Core. In fact, in many cases, for students that study in career tech, for example, we're going to go to much more advanced mathematics and reading because business requires that. There's no limit. So it's a foundation. It gives young people the opportunity to have the math and reading skills necessary to embark on this wondrous, unique, and never one-size-fits-all educational experience for themselves.
And what about some of the criticism of Common Core that some believe it could be a federal takeover of what has largely been state-run education across the United States?
Yeah, there's been a number of federal takeovers of education. Actually, things like the FFA has actually been driven by the Department of Education and federal law for decades. And I don't know about you, but I happen to really like the FFA and Ag Ed. It's been great for Oklahoma and across the country. My daughter was in it. I've experienced it. So that would actually be a federal program. But the Common Core does not appear anywhere in federal legislation. And I always think, so what are the consequences if I, as a teacher, do not teach the Common Core exactly as it's presented? There won't be anybody come to your door. The IRS won't check on your audits. Well, at least we hope they don't. But the point is that there's no federal engagement. Federal involvement was when the Obama administration and Arne Duncan saw the value of what the states were doing, and they piggybacked and made it as one option to acquire some resources. You don't have to take the resources, it's not a federal law, and in fact, you don't have to use Common Core. The simplest way you see that it's not a federal requirement is 5 states have opted not to do it. And many states have looked at it and said, well, we like most of Common Core, but we're going to make some modification. Florida, for example, has got additional items in the material. We in Oklahoma, we see Common Core as a really solid place to begin, but the Oklahoma academic standards are going to be what Oklahoma wants.
Yeah, and as the governor said in Andy's story, this is sprung forth from the National Governors Association, all those governors coming together.
Well, that's correct. Now, there's all kinds of conspiracy theorists around that, but one of our challenges, a lot of people say, well, you know, Oklahoma children are different than New York children, and they are. But when it comes to basic reading, we have the internet, so reading is global now. We have all kinds of, for example, if you want to participate in the airline industry, you're going to have certain reading levels, whether you're from New York or Oklahoma or Washington. And so, again, this notion that there has to be some base of quality around math and reading as the foundation for young people to have choices, I think makes a lot of sense. That doesn't mean that we're all uniform and vanilla and nobody's going to change anything. In fact, there's huge opportunities for creativity beyond those basic skill sets.
And why would we not want our children educated at the same level or even a better level than the same children that they're going to be competing against for jobs, whether it be New York, Florida, or Singapore?
Well, and here's the interesting thing. Oklahoma, like every other state, has to think of education as providing our young people and our next generation with a competitive advantage. We don't live within the boundaries of Oklahoma. We do commerce, we trade, we can communicate all the way around the world. So we want our kids to have a competitive advantage. Moving to higher academic standards than what were originally placed in Oklahoma means that we're more competitive. Right now, in the United States, Massachusetts and Minnesota are recognized as some of the highest standards in the country. Finland and some other countries, Singapore, have even higher standards. So the question is, how fast can we move up to these high standards, help our teachers be prepared to teach? How do we make sure that young people can succeed? And in the long run, how can we make sure Oklahomans are more competitive than Texans? We've got a lot of experience with that, right? It's called football. We would never accept somebody training and conditioning and developing plays in football that were below Texas standards so that we always got beat. Well, that's what we're trying to do in the academic world, is we don't want Texas to beat us. We don't want Arkansas or Kansas or anybody else. Oklahomans are proud, they're tough, they're just as smart as anybody in the world. And so we're making sure that the young people are prepared. Again, Common Core, the foundation that leads to any other options and all the creative work that we want to do.
Put on your workforce development hat for me, and I would assume that industry are behind these standards and probably excited about them.
Yes, generally speaking, all the chambers of commerce, all the major businesses are supportive of it because they know that their competitiveness in the global economy is predicated on young people and adults alike coming to their business ready to not only to have learned already, but ready to position to learn more, to study, learn high-end technical skills, to engage in training, whether it be in career tech or college. All of those things are predicated on being able to read at high levels and to compute at high levels.
So can we expect Oklahoma classrooms to look, let me ask it this way, how different will Oklahoma classrooms look once these are fully implemented?
Well, that'll depend on the schools and the teachers. Standards just simply tell us what should be learned. How to learn is going to be dependent on classrooms, teachers, principals, quite frankly, parents and kids. What I find interesting is that any reform that's going on right now, a school reorganizes or a teacher takes a new approach and the approach doesn't work, it's blamed on Common Core. Common Core didn't impact that. That was a decision of the school. Likewise, amazing things are happening. Young people are not only learning to memorize material, but they're getting to apply it. Of course, over in career tech, we thought that was the way you always did it. We've always been very successful in applying knowledge and putting it to work. The Common Core work involved in the Common Core expects a deeper learning experience, not just to memorize your alphabet, but to create words, not just to memorize words, but create sentences, not just to create sentences, but actually make a compelling presentation to somebody to bring about ideas or to create new products or to communicate what we need to do in a civic community.
Well, certainly an interesting, important time in education. Dr. Robert Sommers, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.